Hello, this is Dr. Chetna Kripalu talking about gut health, a foundation for well-being. This is so important that I've learned in the last 2 years about all the importance of gut health, which is a foundation to overall health and life in general. So let's see what we have to ask ourselves first. There's certain questions which are usually what come up very often. Are you sick of being tired all the time? Are you suffering from brain fog? Are you anxious or depressed more than usual? Are you suffering from bloating or abdominal discomfort? Are you suffering from joint pain? Are you suffering from rashes on your skin? Are you having problems losing weight? So if you ask all these questions and it's been coming up very often in your life, that means you're in the right place. And you came to the right place to learn what causes all these symptoms and what can we do about it. The most important cause of all these symptoms is really a malfunctioning digestive system. And that means something's going on in the digestive system which is not working properly. So it is causing all of them. So if you look back previously in thousands of years ago, when healing was discovered in different other forms of medicine, for example, Ayurveda, homeopathy, everything like that, they always said everything starts in the digestive system because that's where most of the nutrients are absorbed and everything. So if that doesn't function properly, the whole body suffers, whole being suffers. So that's what we're going to see. Did you know that the gut has extensive neurons, which means an extensive nervous system, which is 1/200th of the number of neurons in the brain and 5 times as many in the spinal cord. And that's why it's called the second brain. This is because there's so many things happening in the gut, which is all the way from the mouth till the rectum. Different parts of the gut is important for different things, and the nervous system helps the digestion, absorption, elimination, which helps all the nutrients go to the rest of the body where everything happens and it affects the whole life. So did you know that digestion starts in the mouth? So the gut essentially starts from the mouth till the rectum. So when you are eating food, for example, you're prepared for an exciting meal, the taste stimulates your enzymes in the mouth, in the stomach, and in the intestines, and all over the digestive system. So the salivary amylase is an enzyme in the mouth which starts helping mash up the food, and when you chew the food, yes, you're supposed to chew it about 32 to 40 times each time, so it really helps digest the food even starting from there, because that's the only place where all the chewing happens and the big foods are broken down into small particles. Did you know heartburn is the most common symptom or complaint which I have encountered in most people? I don't know the statistics, but most people come to me and say I have acid. That means they have heartburn in different forms. But heartburn, what is heartburn? So heartburn means that there is acid in the stomach, which is called hydrochloric acid, which is very important for us for digestion of especially proteins and absorption of B vitamins. But what happens a lot of time, the muscle for some reason in between the food pipe and the stomach is not working properly. So then what happens is the stomach from the acid comes up, and that's what causes this heartburn. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have excess acid, that it can in fact be that you have low acid. So now you learned the fact that it's not necessarily excess acid, so we have to treat it differently. Next thing is, did you know how long the small intestine is? The small intestine in fact is the longest. It's about 15 feet long, and if you really laid it out on the floor or on the ground, it's as big as a tennis court. And this is the most important part of the gastrointestinal system, and it is the hub of absorption of all the nutrients. So you can see this surface area of how much the absorption happens here. So the other organs of gastrointestinal system are gallbladder, the liver, the pancreas, and the large intestine. The gallbladder secretes something called bile, which is the main enzyme or secretion, as they call it, which is for the digestion of fats. Pancreatic enzymes are the other group of enzymes, which are a large number, which helps for the digestion of carbohydrates. So these are all important for digestion primarily, and some of it for absorption. So the three functions of the gastrointestinal system are digestion, absorption, and elimination. So what is digestion? Breakdown of food into smaller molecules the body can use. Absorption means these molecules go into the blood, and then this is carried around to the rest of the body. And finally, the things which are not absorbed have to be eliminated. So these products are eliminated from the body through the stools or feces out of the body and eliminated. And there's 3 different kinds of elimination. The digestive system is a stool, and the others are basically the urine and sweat. But let's come to the hormones of the digestive system now. So there's direct and indirect. Direct ones are leptin, ghrelin, gastrin, secretin, CCK, peptide, YY, and many hormones. So there's about 23 to 26 hormones in the GI system which are directly responsible for digestion in the gastrointestinal system. And the indirect hormones, what do we mean by indirect hormones? Basically, when your digestion is not working, it can affect your thyroid, cortisol, insulin secretion, the estrogen, progesterone, growth hormone, and testosterone. And it's the other way around too. If these organs which secrete these hormones are not working properly, then it can affect your digestion also. For example, let's say irritable bowel syndrome. If your adrenals, which is the stress-related hormone, are not really working properly, then it can affect your digestion. That's why people have an irritable bowel, and they either have constipation or diarrhea when they talk about it as a nervous stomach. So what causes our digestive system to go wacky? Let's explore what are the causes. So there are 5 different causes. Stress is number 1. So how does stress affect your digestive system? Basically, when your stress is high, your adrenals secrete 2 hormones called cortisol and adrenaline, which is really up. So when they're up, the body is going through a fight or flight response. And what that means is the body is connecting to the rest of the body, like the digestion and elimination, all these different other systems to say, okay, now we're not going to work. Now we are going to stop working because we need to take care of what the immediate stress is right now. So imagine if somebody has chronic stress. So you see the digestion is not working properly. So you may be eating the right kind of food, but still, because of the connection of the different hormones, they don't work properly. So you're not really digesting and absorbing things. Then, of course, the second cause is improper nutrition. That means people are not taking enough vegetables, people are not eating enough fruits, people are not eating enough protein in their diet, and a lot of people are eating junk food, fast food, and that really causes a lot of problems in the digestion and how your body functions. So then now the third one is lack of exercise or movement. So exercise is very important because we as human beings are made to move. So we're not, supposed to sit for long periods of time and not do anything, because again, the digestion is connected so strongly that the body has to make the food move forward, and that doesn't happen when you're sitting and doing nothing. So that's why movement or exercise is important. The fourth, sleep. We underestimate how much sleep is important for us. Lack of sleep is almost like going through a stressful situation. So if we do not sleep, we do not have all the hormones which actually regenerate our system, rejuvenate our system, the growth hormone and other things which are active during sleep time. So if we don't get enough sleep, that also is affected. Then the last thing is environmental exposures. These are huge. The amount of chemicals and toxins we're exposed to, and some of the medications we take, all of these affect our digestive system tremendously. So let's explore the gut-brain connection. So what are all the things which are in the gut-brain connection? Number one is actually the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is a huge and the most important nerve probably in the whole body. So this is very important for communication purposes, how digestion happens. Then the other neurotransmitters are like serotonin and dopamine, which you've heard, right, in the brain. So we know that if we don't have enough serotonin, then you can go into depression, anxiety, and different forms. So just like the brain, we do have serotonin secretions in the gut too. So that's how it's connected. That's why if you don't eat the right foods, then you get anxious. If you eat the right foods, it's much better. Now, that's because of this, it affects your mood, focus, ability to focus, and that's what causes brain fog and not ability to focus. Then, of course, the stress causes something called leaky gut. And the leaky gut means that your gut is not exactly like it sounds, leaky gut, and we'll explore that further. And finally, because of leaky gut, it causes so much inflammation. And as you know, inflammation is a big part of most of the diseases which we've seen. So the first is, how do we manage stress? So there's different ways you can manage stress, just like we kind of talked about a little bit of the fight and flight effects on digestion. Now, how do we help with that? Yes, so we do like a pre-meal ritual. So the biggest thing which helps with pre-meal ritual, it starts from there, is gratitude, which is the biggest thing which, most of the cultural and spiritual, people in those days have explained how it actually works. It affects you because you go from a sympathetic to a parasympathetic mode, which is a relaxed mode. And this is what happens with breathing before meals, being calm, mindfulness, really appreciating your meal, chewing your food thoroughly, tasting every bite of it. And a lot of this can be done more effectively by eating with people, because then you're actually enjoying your meal. And in a lot of traditions are very good with this, where they eat with family and friends, and so it makes a big difference. And of course, meditation, maybe a couple minutes before eating a meal, you can just stay calm, center yourself, after taking a couple of deep breaths. That would be generally helpful for managing stress, and it starts from just before you start eating. So let's come back to the fact about nutrition. Foods that hurt the gut. So there are certain foods we want to stay away from, which is so important for us to know, because these are the foods which are actually harming our digestive system, and so the whole body pretty much. So number one is refined products and processed food. That means the processed sugars, all the boxed foods which you've seen, some of the canned foods, just ready-made foods, microwave meals. All these things have a lot of processing going on. Even our milk is processed because it's pasteurized. So we'll come to that later. Then the second one is gluten or wheat. That's a big component for something called leaky gut, because that really affects the permeability of the whole intestines, where the absorption occurs and everything becomes leaky. So all the toxins enter the blood, all the unwanted foods and bacteria in the intestine enter the blood, and that's what causes these brain fog and helps and disrupts the whole body. And the next one is hydrogenated and other oils. You already know about this. Is all the trans fats, all the the stuff they put in cookies, Crisco, all these things are really bad for us. They secrete something called free radicals, which goes and deposits in your heart and causes heart disease. And it's bad for everything in the body. The next one is dairy. Dairy is, again, some things which doesn't necessarily affect all the people, but it's something which you should keep in mind if somebody's not feeling well in their stomach, because they do have a protein called casein, and lactose, of course, a lot of people are lactose intolerant, but the casein affects your gut. So that's how it hurts people. And then the next one is sugar. We know sugar is very important. Sugar is actually a drug nowadays, because people are so addicted to it and so dependent on it. And we don't realize that it causes so much inflammation in our body, and not to mention how it affects the insulin part of it, which causes diabetes, prediabetes, and all the other conditions. Then alcohol. Alcohol affects your gut because it makes your gut thin and again leaky. Other things which might affect people are soy products, peanuts if people are sensitive, and in some people eggs can be a problem. Caffeine is an issue for a lot of people. Again, it affects your gut because it thins your gut and affects the digestion absorption. And preservatives, it's huge. Just like we mentioned the environmental triggers, the preservatives kind of fall there because it really bothers a lot of people, even causes some people to get migraine, some people have body aches, and a lot of issues with preservatives. Processed meats, again, the same thing comes in the category of processed. And corn, there's something called BT corn, which is a big deal nowadays, which is genetically modified and is affecting a lot of people in different ways. So some form of corn, basically. So now let's look at the foods that heal the gut. So foods that heal are vegetables, as we all know, brassicas. Brassicas means broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, kale, Brussels sprouts. And certain other prebiotic foods, for example, the chicory root. Dandelion greens are good. Artichokes, especially the Jerusalem artichokes. Then chia seeds, especially if you make a chia gel, it's really soothing to the gut. It's almost like a demulcent, which really kind of coats your gut. Then certain other foods like jicama, sweet potatoes, which are root vegetables, it's a good prebiotic fiber too. And other ones are flaxseed or pumpkin seeds. Garlic especially is really good for you. Sprouts, green leafy vegetables, and coconut oil. Coconut oil has something called caprylic acid, which is again very soothing for your gut. Now let's look at the herbs that heal the gut. There's certain herbs which are really good for us, which can be incorporated. You don't have to do all of them at once, but then you can do them as many as you can incorporate. Aloe vera, we know that it's really again heals and very smooth. Turmeric is anti-inflammatory. Thyme, chamomile, mustard, slippery elm, ginger, oregano, rosemary, fennel, licorice, and marshmallow. All of them are actually helpful in healing the gut and can be incorporated as an elixir or incorporated in your food, however one wants to do it. Then the next thing is probiotics. This is a very important part of our food, which a lot of times people actually don't know enough about them. So let's talk about a little bit about probiotics. So what is probiotics? So we have bacteria in our gut which are very good for us and which do a lot for us, and that's what microbiome means. And we have 100 trillion bacteria in the gut. And what are their functions and why are they important? Because they maintain balance in our body. They help improve immunity. They even make vitamins for us, like the B vitamins and K2 vitamins. They prevent infections. They help break down the food. They have certain enzymes which our body doesn't have. And then finally, even prevent inflammation. There's others which how can we get these probiotics in our diets? So different forms are basically kimchi. Kimchi is actually a Korean pickle which they incorporate on a regular basis. So fermented foods basically are all important for us. So fermented sauerkraut, coconut kefir, seed yogurt, kombucha, which you've heard nowadays, which is prepared. People make their own kombucha too. Miso, and then of course finally you can have it in the form of supplements from a good probiotic company. So let's look at the other things which causes problems with digestion. So environmental triggers. So what are the environmental triggers? So there's a few of them which are very important. Fertilizers and pesticides. They're really important because they've been causing a lot of leaky gut nowadays, like Roundup, glyphosate, which is the most important thing around in the market now. The next one is tap water. Tap water has a lot of chemicals like chlorine, bromine, and fluoride. So it's good to actually use a good water filter for that. Other things are soaps, lotions, detergents, all of them have a lot of chemicals in them which absorb through your skin. And skin is a large surface area through which it's absorbed. So we have to really figure out the ingredients in them and be careful about using them. Beauty products. Everybody uses beauty products nowadays. So makeup, lipstick, eyeliners, all of these products are also important to be looked at and seen which is better for us. Dental fillings, they're really important. They used to have mercury fillings, and those seem like an important thing which can actually seep into your blood and actually cause a lot of problems. Exposure to lead, it's better nowadays. Lead is not that common, but radon is, and mold is a big deal. People who have chronic allergies, people who have chronic symptoms of not feeling well in their mind or in your body, they need to look at their homes and see if there's mold in it. Toothpaste, which is really important because we have a lot of fluoride in them, may not be good for everybody, so you got to look at that. Supplements, again, if people are having vitamins and minerals regularly, you need to look at them and make sure that it doesn't have too many preservatives, because that can then it kind of defeats the purpose of taking supplements. And then of course boxed and frozen meals, like we mentioned before. So the next thing which affects digestion is sleep, like we had discussed before. So what happens when you don't sleep enough? It causes weight gain. It decreases the amount of energy you have. So you can imagine the night when you haven't slept enough, you don't feel as if you have energy next morning. You feel kind of groggy, don't feel good. It affects your performance, so you're not able to perform the best next day. And then, believe it or not, it actually increases your hunger. It keeps your cortisol up, so that increases hunger, so you tend to eat more. Even without eating, just because of the hormonal effects, people tend to weight gain when they come and tell me that I'm not eating much, doc, but I'm still gaining weight. And that's because they're not sleeping enough. And finally, what happens with not sleeping enough, it affects your adrenal glands, which is the one connected to stress and sleep, and causes adrenal burnout, which causes adrenal fatigue, and really, really affects your performance in general and not feeling good. So what can we do to improve sleep? A couple of things which are kind of important, may sound simple, but really helps improve sleep. Number one is having good sleep schedule. So you sleep early, let's say around 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, and then wake up every morning at 5 o'clock. So that gives you 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And the second thing is optimizing environment, which means not to be looking at your technology, keeping a nice, quiet environment, which is not noisy, and you don't dull your lights there, so that it's not too bright, and you kind of doze into, your sleep sleep and into the bed, and that helps to get to sleep. The next thing is comfortable bed and pillows is very important, because that actually helps you sleep in and get deeper sleep. And then the environment or the temperature around your room is important in whatever climate, whether it's the summer or the winter, to keep it optimal. The room should be really dark, which is very important, and I'll explain why. What happens when you have a dark room, it's kind of like a signal to your brain or the pineal gland in your body, which says that okay, it's nighttime, and all the hormones which are active during the day tend to go down, and all the nighttime hormones come into play, and that's how people can fall asleep. If that doesn't happen, it's a false signal to the brain and the pineal gland, and so things are opposite, and that's what happened nowadays. So that's the same thing for the next one, which is technology, because it has this bright screen which has this blue light, which is almost like sunlight to the body. The body doesn't know the difference, so it's very important to realize that not using any smartphones or iPads or computers at least 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. So the other simple things you can do would be to read before bed, nonfiction. So usually, at least for me, I know that if I'm reading nonfiction, I can easily go off to sleep. So the other thing is to put nice soothing music bedtime. Meditate before you sleep, maybe a few minutes to go into and become more peaceful with yourself, which is kind of just deep breathing and everything. There are certain herbs which help to go to sleep. For example, like lavender, you can use chamomile and all of these. You can use it in the form of teas. You can use that in essential oil form. The essential oils is a great thing which we can use, and I've actually referred this to a lot of my patients. Again, there's lavender oil, there's frankincense, and there is chamomile, which if you put a few drops in diffuser, which is kind of like an air freshener around your house, prep it like an hour before, that helps. Or you put a few drops under your pillow, which you can inhale, which really helps you kind of doze off into sleep, which gives you all the stages of sleep, which is kind of important too, to have a good night's rest before you wake up in the morning. So, final thoughts. You are what you eat. We know this. And I love this quote from Hippocrates, which was said thousands of years ago. Let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. So we have to eat the right foods, keep our minds healthy, and that's what will help us in general stay healthy, digestion and your whole life essentially. So the final thing, this was very catchy, and Dr. Jeffrey Bland is a famous functional medicine doc. He was the founder of functional medicine, and he said this, and this really affected me, so I thought it would be a great thing to put it on here. Throughout your life, the most profound influences on your health, vitality, and function are not the doctors you visited or drugs, surgery, or other therapies you've undertaken. The most profound influences are the cumulative effects of the decisions you make about your diet and lifestyle on the expression of your genes. This is what determines health and therefore your life. So what it means by that is that your nutrition, the way you eat, actually determines the expression of your genes, which means whether you express a disease or not. So if you eat healthy, then you don't express the genes of hypertension, which is blood pressure, or diabetes or anything, even if you have a family history of it. So you are really empowered to do and make a difference in your own life. And it's not that you're going to be taken in by your genes, and you will get a disease or not. So please remember that. And this is kind of funny, so this is although true, so I had to put it up here. So people are fed by the food industries that pays no attention to health, and treated by the health industry, which pays no attention to food. So essentially, you have to be your own advocate. All this is information which is given to you is for education purposes. So it's important for you to understand that we are responsible for our own health. We are a healer within. So we have to be our own advocate. So that's what it says, be your own advocate. Yeah, so this is a disclaimer. I had to put it in there because all the information provided here is just for educational purposes. If you need more help, please discuss with your healthcare provider for making it more personalized, what is applicable to you. So finally, we want to help people help themselves. So you have to be an advocate. You have to be the one who participates in your own health. But we're trying to come up with more programs as we go along. And I have something coming up in the next, few months. And, please keep an eye out for it. It's called Gut Rejuvenation Program. Thank you so much for your attention. And I hope we have given you some information which is important, to help you.